Welcome to There Is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell, and this is my podcast. I'm going to talk to you about things regarding health and fitness and wellness and all those great things, and try to slap some facts into you and see if you finally get it. Because you know what? That's true, but are you going to do it? Bet you this introduction caught you off guard a little bit, but I'm going to keep asking you that question as we proceed. Before I get to that, thanks Jonathan and Lynn Gilden. Great sponsors. John is a client of the gym. He's come so far with his knee, his training, his fitness, and all that good stuff. And Lynn is the much better looking version of the couple. They own the Gilden Group, and they are the best real estate company around. I personally vouch for them. So please check them out if you have any needs in that area. 451-2412. Yeah, that's true. But are you going to do it? All right, so what on earth am I talking about today? I'm talking about there are a lot of debates out there. There's a lot of different opinions. Even when I work with clients, they're going to sometimes tell me that they've heard of certain ways. They've heard they should train this way. They heard they should train that way. They heard they should eat this way. They heard they should eat that way. There's all kinds of different opinions out there. So I'm going to focus on the most important variable when it comes to really all of our health and fitness and all of our wellness, and that is the psychological component. All right. So again, that all might be true, but are you going to do it? That's really a psychological question, right? That's not a matter of right and wrong. It's a matter of what are you going to do? Years ago, probably around 2007, 2008, I got the opportunity to teach some of the American College of Sports Medicine Personal Training Certification courses, and they are really the gold standard for personal training certification. And I got the opportunity to teach them. Before I did that, I had to go through the training process, of course. And, and I don't blame them, but they just wanted to make sure everybody taught the workshops the same way. The ACSM is cool because it's accredited, meaning that there is an accrediting body that oversees them and the other three regulated certifications. Because, by the way, that's all there is 4 regulated certifications. The rest are all fly-by-night internet BS. So they wanted to make sure everybody's on the same page. Everybody's going to teach the things that they're supposed to teach, the KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities, and they weren't going to give their own spin like so many personal trainers and fitness experts love to do. They wanted to make sure that it stayed scientific. So I appreciate all that. Plus, I got to go on a free trip to Boston and hang out all weekend, which, there's a heck of a lot worse things to do than get a paid flight, paid for hotel, paid meals, and really got to get around some good folks to get some more training. So, hey, I was happy with that. So when I took this course, the 2 hosts of the course were really, really good. They were super experienced. They were older ladies who'd been working in the fitness industry for a long time. And I like that because you get their knowledge. And, they started out really kind of catching us off guard and telling a little story. And the one lady told a story about how when she was working as a fitness practitioner that she had this older woman come in, a pretty advanced aged individual. And the lady sat down and the trainer asked her, the fitness practitioner asked her, she said, "So what brings you in here?" And the older lady said, "Well, it's really, really, really important that I'm able to walk with my daughter. It's the only time really I get to spend time with her is to walk with her. And, I really can't keep up with her. So I want to improve my fitness so I can walk with her. And the practitioner did, what you would do, clinically speaking. You go, oh, okay, she did her vitals, and she did all of the good fitness assessments. And then I guess the way this practitioner worked was she met with people, she made plans, and she went over the plans with them, but she didn't necessarily personally train them, but they were supposed to come in weekly for follow-up or whatever. So she did all those things. She did the assessment and she wrote her out an exercise prescription, and the prescription was to, work on her aerobic base fitness, so to walk at lower intensities using a heart rate monitor until she built up the speed and all this kind of stuff. Gave it to her. The lady took the information. She left. And the following week, when they were supposed to have their follow-up appointment, the lady didn't show up. So, she gave it another day. I guess they had another one planned and she didn't show up again. So she called her up. She said, hey, just wanted to make sure you're okay. We were supposed to meet. And the older lady, very nice, very sweet, very polite, hem and hawed a little bit on the phone. And she says, well, so what I came to you for was I really wanted to be able to walk with my daughter. And the program you got me or gave me is like too slow for her. So it ends up I'm still not able to walk with my daughter. So I feel disappointed and blah, blah, blah. So the lady, the practitioner I met with who gave us this great story, this illustrative story, didn't really state whether they were able to rebound the relationship, but she did go on to state that she learned such a valuable lesson that day, is that we have to listen to people. Like, we can write the greatest programs in the world. We can have the greatest advice in the world. There can be the best diet program out there, which, by the way, there's not. There could be the absolute best way that we look at science, but are you going to do it? So what she learned that day was, number one, of course, you really need to listen to what people are saying. I mean, you really have to understand what the point is of what they're trying to do. Now, this is a little bit off the beaten path here, but like, I learned that lesson long ago because that helps me help somebody else. I want to know why something is important to them, because then I'll know how much real motivated interest this person is going to have. So they might say, I really, really want to lean out. I want to get back to where I once was. And I'll say, okay, so give me a little more information. They will. And then I'll say, okay, but why? And it's funny how many people don't know why, or they don't want to tell you why. But if they really tell you why, or I should say, first, if they really know why, and it's not like a superficial why, because that's not going to work. Like, for example, if they say, well, my spouse told me that I don't look very good anymore, or whatever. And yes, by the way, those statements still do occur. That why is not going to last very long because they're doing it for somebody else, right? So I always like to know the why. So that was the first lesson she got. But the other lesson is, I think, maybe a little bit more profound, but are you going to do it? Like, it's so funny how I'll see these people in my industry. Like, I was telling a client the other day about why I don't like this particular, fitness guru influencer, and I won't say his name just in case you like him. And there's no question that he has a lot of information. I believe he's a PhD in exercise physiology. So he's got a lot of information. And by the way, having a master's degree in exercise phys like I have, I honestly believe that that's enough. Like, I don't see the point in going for more, because I think that even the amount I learned was overkill, because really what it comes down to is the psychology of it, the whys, and are you going to do it, versus the kind of overly complicated, probably too thought about area of exercise physiology. But I don't like this guy because he's one of those super opinionated guys who kind of craps on everybody else, and he likes to prove his theory and what he does exercise wise, let alone diet, but what he believes in exercise wise is the absolute best and has no tolerance for anybody else. So, for example, there's always been debates about high volume versus low volume as far as strength training goes. Like the high volume folks, people think that the higher the volume, meaning the more exercises, the more sets, the more reps, is better than lower volume. So less exercises, less sets, less reps. And both of them have battled back and forth through the years as far as like proving their studies. And as you may have heard me say before, that I've seen the literature on both sides, and both sides really have compelling information. Like both of them can show you that their way of thinking is right. So you might think, well, how does the less volume people, justify it? Well, they tend to justify it with more intensity. So there's still a more variable, right? So they justify it with more intensity, where the higher volume people justify it with, say, slightly less intensity. But there's more involved in both. So there's either more volume or more intensity, which is going to be the case. I mean, I've always said you can go long or you can go hard, but you can't go long and hard. I mean, that's just not going to happen. It's just a physiological impossibility. So you can go one way or the other with that. So, and the research has really kind of shown both of them to be true. But here's one issue in the research, and I think this happens in all the diet, health, and wellness industry research that a couple different people I listen to talk about a lot, is, is this research that they're showing true? Like, in other words, say for the high volume people, they did more exercises, they did more sets, they did more reps, and they showed greater strength and greater hypertrophy. Okay. Or we can take the higher intensity people, and so they showed high intensity workouts. They showed greater strength, greater hypertrophy. Okay, that's great. That's great. But did anybody stop and think that the subjects that came for this type of test are already hyper motivated people anyway? So did anybody stop to research that? Because that's pretty critical, and that is something to absolutely think about. So maybe it's the type of person that is getting the results. And that could be true with even people that are kind of like blindly being studied. It's like, well, more steps lead to this. It's like, okay, but maybe the fact that these people are getting in more steps also shows that they are thinking about other areas of their life, such as healthy eating. So again, I'm not trying to prove any of this. I'm just trying to show you that in these studies, we just don't know. There are way too many variables that we just can't isolate and determine. So the main point of all this, though, is that let's take either one. Let's take the high volume folks. Say, yep. So research has shown that if people do, say, 6 sets minimum per workout of each muscle group, all right, minimum, like there's some research that says even 12 sets per muscle group is the most effective for workouts, right? So that's a lot. That's per muscle group, right? That's a lot. That's 6 sets of chest. 12 sets of chest. So that's like 4 sets of chest press, 4 sets of incline dumbbell press, 4 sets of flies. There's your 12 sets right there, or 6 sets of biceps. So 3 sets of machine curls, followed by 3 sets of supination dumbbell curls. Exercises don't matter. I'm just showing you the different variety for exercises. So that's a lot of sets, right? So yeah, there's research that shows higher volume works, right? But are you going to do it? That's the thing. Is it really like what is ideal, or is it what are you going to do? Because the bottom line is the most compelling research shows that people who strength train get much greater benefits out of life, for life, than people that don't. I mean, it's not even close, right? And there's so many other variables when it comes to strength training that it's like, how do we even know what a set is? I mean, you go, well, a set's a set. It's like, okay, yeah, okay. Well, here's a little experiment I used to do with people. When I was teaching sports medicine, I would get two of my students and I'd say, hey, walk down to the strength lab. Go ahead and grab 2 pairs of 15-pound dumbbells and bring them back. So they would go down, they'd grab 2 pairs of 15-pound dumbbells and they bring them back. I'd say, great, okay. So you same 2 guys or gals, what I want you to do is pick up those dumbbells and I want you to put your backs to each other so you can't see what you're doing. And I want you to each give me 15 reps of dumbbell curls. So they would. And, because I get lucky or whatever, it just would be really bad luck that 2 people would do the exact same speed of the repetitions. But it never is, because people just don't do that. And they would do their 15 reps, and one would, I'd say, as soon as you're finished, set the weights down. So they would, one would, and then the other one would still be going. And I'd say, okay, class. So in this one little minuscule example, just this, one did 15, it took this long, decent form. The other did 15, it took this long, decent form. So now you pick yours up and you pick yours up and you go. Say, okay, so wait a minute, you just took 10-second break. You didn't. You're taking a 3-second break. Right. So go. And again, they're off, they'd go. And so they got the point that it's like, well, what constitutes a set? And what constitutes really how long a set should be? Because this guy did 15 repetitions in 45 seconds. And this guy did 15 repetitions in 20 seconds. So he took a 30-second break. He took a 10-second break. Was this not one long continuous set? And did he do 2 sets? And by all then, their heads were spinning. I'm like, right. So what constitutes a set anyway? So we really get bogged down in the minutia in a lot of this stuff. Now, there's no question that there are some variables that are consistent, like load, right? Load is load. If you're using the same leg extension all the time, that 40 pounds isn't going to shrink overnight. It's still 40 pounds. If you're using dumbbells and they're 5s, well, they're 5s. They're 5s today, they're 5s next month. So there are some variables that are absolutely going to stay the same, some metrics that are going to be very measurable. But repetitions and sets are not one of them. We try to keep things constant. And if you guys think that's easy, I just want you to follow me around all day. And we'll see how easy that is. And you'll go, well, you tell him to slow down, but he doesn't, right? You tell him to slow down, he goes too slow, right? You tell her to speed up, and she really does. You tell her to speed up, and she gives you a dirty look. So, we try to control a lot of variables, but a lot of these things are hard, except for the one constant, and that is the fact that they're actually working out. And that is that's the major point of my job. Like all the time people say, well, the number one reason people hire a trainer is accountability. I'm like, right. And that's good. Like I take that job serious. So I'm going to hold somebody accountable. I'm going to be like, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here. And when you get here, I'm going to get your mind the best I can focused on working out. And we're going to do our workout the best that we can. And then I'm going to see you next time. And if you cancel too early, meaning you don't give me notice, you're going to be charged. That's accountability. If I don't do that, I'm not doing my job, right? So that is very important that we work out. That's the most important thing. So we can study all of what is the best set, what is the best rep, what is the best structure. And none of that matters. It's what are you going to do? But are you going to do it? Do you know how many times I'm asked to give somebody a diet plan that they say is ideal, like they believe is ideal, or I should say, they want ideal. And sure, there is an ideal diet plan out there for each individual. Like everybody's a little different. But of course, there is an ideal diet plan for each individual. Like I know what my ideal diet is. I know probably what's close to what your ideal diet is. But are you going to do it? And do you know how many times I will send somebody something only to follow up with them a few days later, and they'll say, well, no, haven't started it yet. Or, no, I don't know. I found that I just couldn't do it. I couldn't eat that type of food, or I couldn't eat as much of this as you wanted me to. And I was eating too much of what you didn't want me to. So no, I just kind of just quit. Do you know how often that happens? It happens more times than people actually picking it up and following it. As a matter of fact, I can think only of one person through all the 30 years of me doing this that really did it consistently for a long time. Just one person. Now, he had the benefit, I guess you could say, it's a benefit, of being very OCD. So he had that personality trait that enabled him to do it. And when he said, you literally please just tell me down to the cup or ounce size of this, and I'll do it. If you say 1/2 cup of green beans, and that literally is an example, because that was the only vegetable that really he wanted to eat or could eat that was on what I thought was recommended, he would do it to a T. Did it work? Of course. I mean, this guy lost a ton of weight. Of course it did, because he followed it to a T. One person. Then other people through the years have done it for a while. But I'm not even implying that you have to. So I don't even like doing that. So when people say, hey, can you give me the ideal meal plan? I mean, most of the time I say, look, just read my book, because it's all about behavior modification. This is all about behavior modification. Wellness is all about behavior modification. Are you going to do it? So I'll say, hey, read the book first. Or I might say, I don't really want to give you a meal plan. So let's do this instead, because I know this works better. God forbid you listen to me. Why would I know what I'm talking about? But I know that this works better. And that is if I tell you to just go ahead and eat like you normally eat, log your food in your MyFitnessPal, whatever app you use. I will go in and I will come up with the first thing that you have to do to change your behavior. That might be eliminate soda. That might be really cut down on your wine consumption. That might be try to cut back on ultra processed foods. I don't know. I mean, those are usually the big three that I see, but it will be one of them, just one. That's it. That's what I want you to do. And then we'll go from there. Why? Because you can do that. I don't have to ask you the question, but are you going to do it? Because the answer is going to be no. It's going to be no. You're not going to do it. How do I know that? Because I've done this for a very long time. You're not going to do it. I know behavior modification, and I know how to get people to change their behavior to the best of my abilities. And one of the things we know to do is make the goal manageable. So if I were to say, okay, your diet, no, it's not great, but if we shoot for perfection, we're not even going to hit average. I promise you that. We're just not going to. Human nature says it's not going to happen. But if we shoot for better, we're going to hit it. And I know a lot of you out there go, oh, that's not good enough. No, that's not good enough. It's okay, well, how's that working for you? I mean, so many people that say that, honestly, sometimes they're a train wreck with a lot of their physical behaviors, and they're so opinionated and they know so much about themselves. And well, I know me, and I know if this isn't a perfect program, I'm just not going to do it. And I'm are you looking at yourself right now? I mean, so you just said you know you, and yet you don't know you, because obviously your way of thinking has not worked at all. It just doesn't work. I mean, we're all alike in many, many ways. I mean, human nature is human nature, and people don't like to be told often what works. So, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. So what does work is say, so do that, and I'm going to go in, I'm going to find that one behavior that we can modify. And so funny, people don't like to do it. Like they want perfect, or they don't want to start. Yet what works is going, let's just go in and pull out ultra processed foods for 1 week and let's see what happens. And usually there's a noticeable difference. They feel better. They lose a few pounds. They have less inflammation. They're a little bit stronger. Their mood is better because ultra processed foods is just crap. And if we can just like work on eliminating them and not worrying about the other behaviors at first, that's a modifiable program that works. And look, even if you never changed a thing the rest of your life, you just got better. What is wrong with that? I mean, what's wrong with that? And then when it comes to strength training, Jimmy Bob next door, he gets up every morning at 5 a.m. and he goes to LA Fitness and he does 90 minutes of strength training. And he told me 12 sets of chest followed by 12 sets of back. And then he gets on the life cycle and he does 30 minutes of cardio afterwards. I'm like, Then he gets up the next day and he does legs and he does 12 sets of legs and then he does 12 sets of arms, 6 sets for triceps and 6 sets of biceps. And, then he goes for a 30-minute run. Oh, and you know what? Jimmy Bob is like really fit. He does this and he does that. I'm like, great. Yeah, awesome. So I want to do that, Rob. Can you build that program? No. Why? Because you're not going to do it. Why? Because you're not Jimmy Bob. Like, why would we think we're going to do it when we haven't done it? And why wouldn't we just do what we know works? Like, I've seen people for years and years and years get on a sustainable exercise program. A sustainable exercise program, meaning I take the research of what I know works, and if somebody works out 2 times a week consistently, they will get the benefits that they're looking for. They're going to get great benefits if they're consistent. The research is impelling on this. There's compelling on this. It absolutely works and it's sustainable and you're going to do it. So we focus on overload, one of the principles, progressive overload, which absolutely works, meaning if we do a little bit more each time, our body is going to adapt and we're going to get better. That works. I'm not going to overwhelm somebody with too much exercise, too much cardio, too many sets, too many reps, too much weight. Why? Because it's not going to work. You're not going to do it. Like even when, and I'm not saying you have to do it, like really a lot of these things it comes down to is the people that I described, old Jimmy Bob going to LA Fitness. Well, he's not just doing it for his wellness benefits. He's doing it because it's also a hobby of his that he absolutely enjoys. How do I know? Because I'm Jimmy Bob. Like, I'll work out like that, but because I have a gym here and I have my home gym, it's easy for me to do that, and I enjoy it. It's my hobby. I enjoy it. You might like tinkering on cars. I mean, it's not like I don't have other hobbies. I do, but that's my hobby. I don't necessarily do it for health and wellness benefits because I know I can get by with a lot less if I did, and I even mean optimally. All right, so I know that if we do what I know we're going to do, there's no perfect plan, but I know it's going to work. And so my goal is to always come up with what you need to do, the minimum you're going to do to get benefits. And even if it's intensity, you think, well, with these like lesser set programs that we do, you're going to have to crush somebody with intensity. Okay. Not everybody's going to do that either. I mean, I pushed people. I mean, obviously, I've been known to push people and I can push people and I know who to push and I know who I shouldn't push. Not because they're going to get hurt, but because they're going to either like feel bad about themselves or they won't tolerate the lactic acid or they won't want to do it again. Right. So there are people that like you push super, super hard and then like the muscle burn gets so bad that it gets into the system, the lactic acid, like I talked about last time, and they start feeling really, really nauseous. Well, guess what? Like we're animals that learn. So like if we feel nauseous every time we work out, we're not going to work out. So sure, in the best case scenario, a high intensity strength training workout, you would set somebody up to go around and do, say, 12 to 15 reps to absolute failure in perfect form, go from one exercise to the next, hitting failure on every set. Like physiologically speaking, that's an ideal set, or that's an ideal exercise routine, doing about 20 exercises for the whole workout. Yeah, studies show it. Yep. Are you going to do it? Or are you going to get 3 in and feel like you're getting ready to lose your lunch? I mean, we're all different, and we have to take these things into consideration. Now, us experienced trainers know, like, we know your limits. We know them better than you. Like, some people will say to me, no, I'm good. And I'm looking at their face going, you're not good. You're starting to turn pale. You're starting to, like, talk less, which, you know what, sometimes that's not such a bad thing. No offense, anybody. So you don't know yourself as well as you think. Or, man, I've got 6 more in me. And I'm going, dude, you have 1 more in you. Like, you don't know yourself. And I probably don't either, nearly as much as we think we do, right? So we know you pretty well. So we know what your limits are. Any of you think you can disguise me? Go for it. I challenge you. But we know, and we're just doing what's best for you. I promise you. If we've backed off, it's because something in your body language told us you're getting ready to drop. Not literally, but meaning you're going to fall off so bad that it's going to be a struggle to just finish your workout. All right? So, yeah, all these things are great, man. They're ideal. But are you going to do it? Because at the end of the day, what I want for you and what I think you want for yourself is consistency, so you can get all the adaptations and benefits that exercise can do. All right. Are you going to do it? That's the question. Are you going to hire overhead door to do your next garage door? Because if you don't, you're an idiot. All right. That's a little harsh. And I like to throw humor into these podcasts, but they absolutely are the best in Volusia County. I'd say the best anywhere. And we're lucky to have a local group here with Jeff and Zach Hawk. So give them a shout at overheaddordaytona.com.